Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm the City Witch. Today's video we're going to be talking about books on protection magic, and I have 6 of them I'm going to discuss in this video. All of them cover various different subjects. The first 3 definitely focus on exercises and techniques for building your own personal energy and defenses, recognizing what type of psychic you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, how to read and see auras, and how to recognize when you're under any form of magical attack. So these ones are meant to be used in a practical way, and you're meant to use the exercises and techniques within to develop yourself as a practitioner. The last 3 books in this video are gentler books that focus more on Wicca, positive energies, casting spells, and following just more gentler path rather than a more aggressive path. And the first 3 are definitely more aggressive techniques and about mastering your own energies. So you can choose the book that best suits you guys, and I probably recommend having a combination of some of these books. Certainly the first 2 books I'm going to talk about are the best ones, so I definitely recommend those. Now the book that has been requested was Practical Protection Magic by Ellen Dugan, so I'm going to begin with that book. But if you are interested in watching this video and figuring out if there's any other books you want to add to your collection, then please continue to watch. If you do enjoy this video, guys, please give me a thumbs up. Click the bell so YouTube will tell you when my next video comes out. If you'd like to support me on any of my social media, all of that is in the description, guys. And if you'd like to offer light and love to this channel, you can do that through Patreon. And thank you very much to those who choose to do that. I will also include in the description a full list of all the books mentioned in this video, so you can go ahead and search for those and add them to your collection. Let's get started, guys, and I hope you enjoy the video. So the first book we're going to talk about is called Practical Protection Magic by Ellen Dugan, and it looks like this. So this book is the #1 book that I would recommend you have in your collection, especially if you're unsure about the others or you're spoiled for choice. This is definitely the one that I'd say go for. And the reason for that is because Ellen Dugan covers just about everything you need to know about protection magic, and she goes at it from a very practical perspective. So she's not asking you to shield yourself and hide away in a little bubble and hope that the threat goes away. She's giving you lots of practical techniques and tools in this book to actively protect yourself and get rid of those forces trying to harm you. She does state she's not Wiccan or pagan. She's definitely a witch practicing witchcraft, and all the techniques in this book are witchcraft related. So if you're looking for something a bit more with the harm non-rule, Wicca based, then this probably isn't the book for you. However, it still has practical information in it and some really good exercises that you could incorporate in your craft and your path. So just to give you an idea of the chapters within this book. So the first thing you'll get is an introduction, and here she talks about lessons learned. So this is personal experiences from the author and what she gained from that and what she discovered about herself. She then goes on to talk about the middle ground, what you'll find within this book, beginning your journey, and why protection magic's important. Then everything's broken down into chapters after that, and your first chapter focuses on psychic awareness and witchery. So in that one, she gives you tests to figure out what's your master element out of earth, air, fire and water, what is your prominent psychic ability out of clairaudient, clairvoyant, empathic, intuitive. Now she does list other psychic abilities and say there are many more than these 4. However, it's common that you usually have one of these 4 and other small techniques develop over the time because they're rooted in these 4. She also talks to you about the pros and cons of each of these abilities, their strengths and weaknesses, and how to recognise your own strengths and weaknesses so that you can work on the weaknesses so they're no longer weaknesses but instead strengths, making you a very strong individual when it comes to blocking out external energies you don't want affecting you, your body, your mind, your energy, your emotions. She gives you lots of practical advice, exercises, and different techniques to try in that chapter as well. Then after that, she's broke it down into working with the elements. So chapter 2 focuses on the element of air. Knowledge is power. So in this one, she talks to you about psychic attacks and how to identify it, symptoms of a psychic attack, elemental solutions for a psychic attack, down-to-earth advice on hauntings, ghost busting for witches, house cleansing and banishments of unwanted energies, working with friendly spirits of your house, and working with the element of air. Chapter 3 is about the element of water, setting boundaries. So this one we deal with emotions, emotional vampires, identifying an emotional vampire, passive-aggressive emotional bullies, bullies versus the witch, and some exercises and spell work surrounding that, defining and setting your boundaries magically, and working with the element of water. Then chapter 4 is the element of earth, guarding and reclaiming your power. Here she talks about psychic vampires, intentional and unintentional, invited and uninvited energies and what you need to know about those and how to identify them. Types of psychic vampire energy feeding. So, not all vampires feed on the same thing and not all of them feed in the same way. So this is the various different techniques and how to identify that and test those theories for yourself. Are all psychic vampires bad? So some ethics surrounding this. And give it away, how to get your energy back, reclaiming your personal power, and psychic shielding, and then working with the element of earth. Chapter 5, physical fitness equals magical strength. So here she talks about the element of fire and how making sure that your physical fitness is just as important as your mental, emotional, and of course your psychic fitness. So she talks about bringing all that into alignment and utilising all those different things for your magical defence. She talks about transforming yourself to be strong and beautiful, staying motivated no matter what, body language and how to be body aware. She talks about health and healing and self-healing magic. She talks about self-love and the importance of that and the element of fire and working with it. And then chapter 6, which was my favourite chapter, is warding and witchery. So in this one, she talks to you about making and crafting things for your home that can help you in your magical defence. So the first bit is warding the threshold using herbal swags, wreaths and decorative brooms. She talks about horseshoes and hex signs, gargoyles and stone warding guardians. She talks about protective symbols and working with the Key of Solomon and the planets. And then she talks about extra wardings and witchery techniques you can incorporate. Chapter 7, Hex marks the spot. The true cost of casting hexes and curses, confirming any magical problems using divination. And then she gives you a lovely story called A Coven Learns the Hard Way. So this is about a coven that kind of went too far and, learned a very valuable magical lesson. And the reason she gives you that is so she can go into the next bit, which is about the moral of the story and setting your own magical morals and boundaries when it comes to practicing witchcraft. And then chapter 8, A Darker Shade of Candle, Herb and Crystal Magic. And she gives you all of those and shows you techniques to utilise those things to uncross and break curses and hexes and work positive magic in order to protect yourself. And then chapter 9, practical magic. So here she talks about correspondences. She talks about psychic self-defense and protection magic. She talks about working with the dark moon and the moon phases. And then she talks about the 13 deities of protection magic that she recommends working with. And one of those is Hecate. And then that's it, guys. So she gives you a lot of information in this book. So as you can see, it's packed full of information. Definitely something I would recommend having to your, in your collection, adding to your arsenal. And it would certainly help you develop as a magical practitioner. Absolutely wonderful book. 10 out of 10 from me. The next book I'm going to talk to you about is called Protection and Reversal Magic, A Witch's Defense Manual by Jason Miller. And it looks like this. So Jason Miller isn't a witch. He identifies as a sorcerer, and a lot of the techniques in this book are using sorcery and occult magic. And as you can see on the back of the book, we have various different symbols. Each of these are for protective purposes, and he does explain them within the book. The chapters in the book are as follows. Chapter 1, Recognising Attack. Chapter 2, Daily Practices. Chapter 3, Personal Protection. Chapter 4, Protection for the Home. Chapter 5, Exorcism. So this is about banishing and removing unwanted energies, people and negativity. Chapter 6, Spirit Guardians and Servitors. Chapter 7, Reversal and Counter Magic. Chapter 8, Healing and Recovery. Very important. And chapter 9, Final Words. And then it offers you resources for further study and then some information about Hecate, because he uses Hecate quite a lot throughout this book. And then he gives you some notes and some advice as well. So on the back of the book, he says, you will learn how to set up early warning systems, appease angry spirits through offerings, perform daily banishings and make amulets that will prevent most attacks, make magical decoys to absorb attacks against you, summon guardian spirits or gods for help, bind, confuse or expel a persistent enemy who will not leave you be. So this book is definitely not something that follows the harm none rule. He is all about practical protection magic, meaning he's not here to fluff this up for you and say, let's protect ourselves in a little bubble and hope the threat goes away. He's more of a proactive practitioner where he will handle anything head on, deal with it and make it go away. So if that repels you or you're unsure, I wouldn't get this book, guys. But actually both of these go hand in hand and work really well together because you've got both perspectives and they make such a complete tome of knowledge. So I would certainly consider having both of these in your collection. And Jason Miller being my favourite writer, he gives you lots of personal experiences and stories throughout the book, which makes it very relatable. He's super easy to read. Everything he does within the book is easy to do. He doesn't give you anything that's too far-fetched or difficult. Everything's broke down in a really easy ritual format. He provides you with a lot of different information, including things like magical squares, tablets and seals. He talks to you about sigils and symbols and their uses. He touches upon Egyptian magic, folklore. He shows you occult magic and how to work with various different techniques from all over the world. So there's something for everybody in this book, and I would certainly score it 10 out of 10. It's definitely a book to consider, guys. So Protection and Reversal Magic by Jason Miller. The next book I'm going to talk about is called Psychic Protection by Ted Andrews. This is the very first book I ever had on anything protection magic based. And this isn't really a magical book. This is more, I would say, this is focusing on your psychic abilities and this is developing yourself and your personal power. So this is what the book looks like. I've had this for a very long time, guys. I think, nearly 20 years. So I don't know what it looks like now. It might have a new front cover. On the back, it says, learn the myths, misconceptions, unfounded fears of the unseen world. Learn to recognise and discern between true and false psychic perceptions and channeling. Learn to recognise subtle influences and how to counteract them. Learn to develop your own psychic powers safely. Learn to learn the realities and myths of thought forms and psychic attacks. Learn how to strengthen and balance and protect your energies in all situations. Learn over 20 effective tools and techniques for spiritual cleansing, protection and overall balance. Learn effective tools to enhance your ethics, professionalism and presence when working in the metaphysical and holistic fields. So that's an awful lot, guys. And as you can see, this is quite a meaty book. This is very, very thick. And he packed it full of information. Actually, I'm not going to read everything contained within because that would take me a long time. So I'm just going to give you an idea of the chapters and how it's broken down. So first of all, in part 1, he says, removing the veil. So the truth about psychic protection, myths and misconceptions, spirits, ghosts and the unseen world, energy drains, group mind and manipulation, and psychic attack. In part 2, he talks about becoming a spiritual warrior. So this is where you start to, sort of take the bull by the horns and start to learn to protect yourself. So here he talks about the keys of protection, simple tools of protection, protection through nature, sacred shielding and awakening the divine force within, and advice on techniques for protection. And he goes into advanced techniques as well. And then chapter 3, he talks about walking the spiritual path. So here you learn spiritual responsibility and intuition, discernment and testing, and entering the psychic realm. And then after that, he gives you a massive, massive list of the different things that you might want to learn. And this is where I'm just going to show it you guys because it's quite a long, long list. So if you want to pause the video at this point, I recommend it. So as you can see, the list is very, very extensive. There's a lot of information there. So for those of you who didn't pause, I will, read you a couple of these. So we've got magic and spells, the conjurer, the alchemist, working with the winds. We've got Egyptian charms, the tree of life, hand positions, predators, Native American shield work, Chinese sorcery, crystals, the Kabbalistic tree of life, working with Apollo. We've got, what weakens your aura? Are you empathic? How to identify an attack, preventing a psychic attack, heraldic magic, shapes and their significance, Celtic protection, archangel associations, discerning false channeling, how to recognise a true psychic, the middle pillar of light, the sacred walk, the white fire vortex cleansing ritual, angelic talismans, quabolastic cross, banishing rituals, and the pentagram. So again, if you want to pause, guys, I recommend you do that at this point. But yeah, there's a lot of information in this book. And then he goes into tools as well, so working with sound, elixirs, aromatherapy, colour, candles. So there's a lot in this book. Most of Ted Andrews' books focus on shamanism, Native American culture, working with animals, and, you know, summoning those forces within you and, you know, externally, and of course doing shape-shifting. So a lot of those techniques I noticed when I read this incorporated that into this. So if you're interested in that, learning shape-shifting, working with animals and totems and guardians, then this is certainly something that you could have in your collection, because it touches on everything. And as I say, he has filled this book with extensive information and knowledge, and he breaks it down into the various different techniques and traditions and paths, and he gives you a touch of everything. So if there's a certain technique you like, you can go ahead and further research that if you wanted to. But it's another good book to have in your collection, guys, and it does help you develop psychically. I really liked how he talked about what can be damaging to yourself, like why your aura might be toxic and negative, helping you identify reasons for that, sickness, health problems within your own aura. So he does go into it quite extensively and testing yourself, and gives you loads of various different techniques and exercises to try. So this is another good book. However, it is just a book on psychic techniques, where he touches on other subjects towards the back, but doesn't extensively go into it. So you would need to further research. For that reason, I score this about 7 out of 10, guys. But it is a good book, and if you're interested in developing yourself psychically only and not looking for a witchcraft book, this is probably the better choice for you. So Psychic Protection by Ted Andrews. The next book I'm going to talk to you about is by Judy Hall. It's called Psychic Self-Protection, and it looks like this. So this book is a really gentle, nice, easy book to work with, and she focuses on discovering inner peace through inner security, practicing psychic self-protection in any situation, unlock the power of your own mind, release the unique healing energies of crystals, and shape your belief in reality. So here she provides you with manifestation techniques, working with crystals and releasing their very powerful energies, how to amplify your magic using crystals and natural materials around you. She gives you practical techniques throughout the entire book, and encourages you to work with symbols and energy patterns and sound. So again, this is another book where she filled it with lots and lots of positive things that you can work with. So if you're looking for something gentle, something to slowly get you into protective magic, and you really like working with crystals, this is probably going to be the book for you guys. So I would personally probably score this about 5 out of 10. Again, it doesn't focus too much on witchery, but does incorporate psychic self-defense and working with crystals, how to enchant jewelry and make charms, and, you know, do gentle, subtle ways to protect yourself. So if that's something you're into and you're not really into aggressive types of magic like the first 3 books, this is the book for you. So the next book I'm going to talk to you about is called Protection Magic, Spells for Defense by Cassandra Eason, author of 1001 Spells. And it looks like this. So she actually has a few of these. She has one focusing on love magic and one focusing on prosperity magic, and this one for protection magic. So each of these is just basically a book filled with spells. So if you're looking for spells on all the various different areas of life you might consider you want protection in, this is probably the book for you. Especially if you're more into casting spells and not really working with yourself on an energetic level, or working with your psychic abilities, and you just want a spell book, this is definitely a good choice. But I would also recommend getting something like this in your collection to match one of the other books I've already discussed with you, because then you've got one on how to teach yourself protection and recognize your own energy, vibrations, attacks, and all of that stuff, but also a book filled with spells to give you a foundation to build your own spells upon in protection. So this is definitely quite an interesting book for that. The symbol on the front cover is for protective purposes, so you can incorporate that into your magic if you want, guys. If you want to, I'd say pause the video here to copy that down. The back of the book, it says, from ill-wishing to paranormal and psychic attacks to fears and phobias, this comprehensive compendium contains an encyclopedic variety of protection spells, Each spell will tell you what you will need to carry out or cast it, the best time to cast the spell, and step-by-step instructions to guide you. So inside the book, I'll show you the content. So the content is as follows. It's all broken down into the various different sections that you might consider you need protection in. So we have protection from and reversal of spells, jinxes and bad luck, protection from and wards against paranormal attack, breaking curses and ill wishes from individuals, families and workplaces, breaking written and spoken hexes by magical practitioners, whether they're amateurish or professional, protection from bullies, abuse and intimidation, both physical and psychological, protection from destructive and abusive love, deception, stalkers and always loving the wrong people, protection from cyberbullies, social media nasties, online dating hazards and internet fraud, protection from the evil eye of envy, creating psychic wards and wardens for powerful protection, protection from fears, phobias, addictions and personal obsessions, protection from financial loss, financial problems and debt, creating protective shields around yourself, protecting your home and all within, protecting the workplace, your career and your business, protection while travelling and commuting, protection from injustice, both legal and personal, and corruption, protecting children from harm and fear, protecting teenagers and young adults, spells for teenagers and young adults to cast to deal with stresses, complexities and problems of modern day life, and protection for pets and wildlife. So again, it covers quite a large area of protection because, you know, you're going to need protection in all areas of life. So it made sense to me that it was broke down in that way. And while it doesn't give you maybe every single spell that you may possibly need, you may sometimes have to design your own. This will give you a foundation to build upon, and there are loads of spells in this that I can easily say that I have used as a basis for another purpose to develop upon that for what I need, thus customizing the spell. So I would say this is worth having in your collection because of all the spells it contains, all of the knowledge and all of the examples and different ways that you can use these spells. And of course there's lots of areas there you might not have considered, like, you know, how often have we always said that we're always dating the wrong person? So I thought it was interesting there was a section on always dating the wrong person and obviously protecting yourself from, you know, abusive relationships, nasty partners. There was a section on, you know, young teenagers dealing with everyday life and protecting them from complexities of adulthood. That was interesting as well. So there's certainly sections in this book I hadn't considered until I read it. So for that reason, I would score this 6 out of 10 because it is a pretty good book. However, she doesn't go into enough detail about how to protect yourself. I think at the beginning of the book, there should have been an introduction with basic techniques on, you know, or exercises on how to build your protective skills, how to work with your psychic energies and build a shield of protection for yourself. So even if you don't want to cast these spells, at least there's a basic to that at the beginning, but she doesn't give you enough information of that. So 6 out of 10 from me. And the last book I've got to show you guys is called Silver Spells for Protection. This is quite an old book and it's by Silver Raven Wolf. It's quite an interesting little book, and if you are Wiccan, it's definitely a book that might appeal to you guys. I don't associate with being Wiccan anymore, but certainly when I first bought this, I was studying Wicca and paganism and looking into those aspects of the craft. But later I developed into witchcraft and occultism and demonology, developing my personal path in a different way. And I soon came to realise I don't associate with being Wiccan anymore and don't follow or believe in the practices of Wicca. But this book has some really wonderful information in it. And if you're definitely looking for a book that follows the rule of 3 and the harm non-law, then this is probably the book for you because it stays within those parameters, meaning everything within this written by a Wiccan practitioner is safe and, you know, isn't harmful to other people, but will still provide you with practical ways to protect yourself and work some practical protection spells. So on the back she says, this book will help you prepare incenses, oils and powders for protection, repel negativity with Penelope's web, travel safely with vocational magic, bring thieves, animal abusers and other criminals to justice, and make your home a haven of peace and security, and discover that an ounce of protection can prevent pounds of problems. So there's some lovely little information in this book. The chapters are broken down as follows. So the first one is called the operating instructions, where she talks to you about, you know, manifestation and banishing, correspondences, ritual timing, casting your spells, Feeding negativity, is it worth it? So she gives you lots of practical advice. Chapter 2, personal prevention magic. Here she says, are you sending the wrong message? Casting clarity spells, producing incenses, protecting your body with shielding work, 4-direction protection spell, dragon's eye triangle protection, magical salts for the bath for protection, spells for protecting your stuff, your home, your loved ones, spells for travel and trips, shopping with a gargoyle. She talks about blessing your home, using the incense of Morrigan, which she teaches you how to make, Florida water, folklore charms for the house and the apartment, fruity vibrations, handkerchief spells, and protection against pregnancy, string and knot charms. And then she talks about working with the energy of a lunar eclipse. And then chapter 3, banishing the lesser intentions. So you'll find things like melting misery with snow magic, bringing pressure to bear, 4 Thieves vinegar recipe, medical madness, liar liar pants on fire, in your face with dead disgrace, stirring up chaos, nasties of the internet, and banishing nightmares. And then chapter 4, when things get sticky. So this is things like working with dark goddess powder, bringing an animal killer or abuser to justice, your cold black heart, candle magic for court cases, legal powders, catching a thief, nailing a criminal, triple action protection incense, fearsome phantoms, tidying things up, working things out, and dealing with some darker paranormal issues. And again, she tries to work within the parameters of Wicca and the Harm None law. So if that's something you're interested in, this is definitely the book for you guys. And then right at the back, she gives you a list of helpful information. So you've got a table of contents for herbs, colour magic, astrological symbols, working with planetary hours, and the moon phases. So all your basic information is contained within this book. And as I say, I thought it was a really good book when I first got it. Certainly things that I still enjoy casting from this. But it's not my favourite book, it's not my go-to book anymore. It's just one I keep in my collection for my students in case they want to practice Wicca and obviously do some protection magic from a Wiccan perspective. So I would score this one about a 6 out of 10, mainly because she doesn't go into too much detail at the beginning about protecting yourself in a very practical, active way, and she doesn't help you identify what type of psychic you are, which lets it down a little bit for me, because you probably need to know that for protection magic. A lot of protection magic is rooted in knowing your own energy, recognising when you are being invaded by a force or an energy, being able to check your aura, and a lot of that is psychic work, and it's just not contained within this book. So hence the low score, guys. But that's the last book on the list. I hope I've managed to give you some examples of books that you're interested in, and I've maybe, you know, increased your book list a little bit. And I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon. Blessed be.